So, while I was starting on the big project of another video I have planned, Katana Zero, I realized something. That Mineplex, the Minecraft server that most of my content was on, was gone, which meant that all of my content specifically was gone. And my career in cake was done for. But then this cool guy named Samito decided to buy it, and he said he'd bring it back and better, so that was pretty cool. I just kind of wanted to sit and wait for that to get settled, maybe keep editing the video that I had planned. And then I realized something. I can't just sit around for months. This could take forever. This could take like a year, and I could try and record, and be like, all right, we're back. The slaughter, we continue. And it's just like me spending 2 weeks trying to get footage of me winning a single fight. That's not entertaining. Come on. I mean, if I like raged, I feel like it'd be anyways. The point is that I need to keep playing, and I decided that to head straight into CubeCraft because that's where all the Mindplex players went, and head straight towards the battle arena to do 100 1v1 duels to make sure I'm not gonna get a little rusty by the time this starts. All right, now don't worry, I'm not crazy. I'm not just gonna commit myself towards fighting close to 100 different people without a plan, and I feel the need to share it with you. Instead of just going and doing the same thing over and over, I decided that I'd mix it up a little bit. And we're going to go through a bunch of different mini games and do their duels to get me built in a bunch of different areas. And the first up being the two kinds of duels in the battle arena, the overpowered and normal kits. We're going to hit up about 25 of each of those to make sure that my PvP skills are game in a bunch of different situations. And then we're going to go over and spend 10 games on other duel types. We have the bridge, we have lucky blocks, sky wars, parkour duels, and we have one that'll hit really close to home, Egg Wars. So the first 25 duels on the overpowered random kits came out to a pretty strong start. The first 5 didn't have audio and the first one was completely scuffed. But the reason I went with kit PvP for the majority of this is because it gets me used to the different situations I'd be fighting in Cake Wars, whether it be using a bow or the most stacked gear around, and I actually managed to find the representatives of Lithuania, which I have no clue what they have going on in their country, but they must be cracked at Minecraft PvP if they get recognized by CubeCraft. Oh. But other than that, the PvP was pretty standard and typically one-sided. There were times where I made the obvious mistake of pushing when I was low and the other person was healing, and in some cases I just made bad decisions on how to respond to being comboed. But it's the fact that I actually noticed these flaws that's going to make sure that I get back to my prime. Now, the normal duels, they're definitely way more one-sided because you're super squishy, and me not being used to that meant that I would end up losing more because I'd either try and time my heals wrong or I'd underestimate how much damage I'd take from my exchange, and I'd die horribly from it. And even though I never got a chance to try and adapt to it, I recognize that healing PvP is super important. Even if in Cake Wars that means just kind of standing around and stalling to be fighting on more equal footing. And that's what I have to do, and that's what I'll do to keep the slaughter going. The Bridge, a game where you run at your opponent's side and jump in a pit somewhere around their house. It's a pretty good game, and it would help me with the bridging part of Cake Wars and getting used to just trying to run past people. And me saying that these duels are one-sided is not an understatement. Either I win against the sweatiest player alive, like I did in my first game after not playing in months, or I win against someone who is just sad, new to the game, and got zero remorse from me because if you're bad at Cake Wars and PvP there, or you're new, I'm not gonna stop and let you learn. This is a war, not a kid's game. Alright, so this duel type was picked to make sure that I can work with what I have and work with the randomness that is the floating islands. There's nothing too special to know in these duels, or really much that I learned, other than just, don't open any chests that your opponent puts down, they might blow up. I guess I also learned to adapt and work with different situations too, and just general timing of the game. Well, Skywars is chosen to get me used to the aspect of getting set up and rushing out as quickly as possible to fight against the others, and it worked out most of the time. Other times though, the luck part of Skywars kind of screwed me, which is to be expected when you consider that those floating islands, goodness me, knockback swords, free diamond armor seems about right. Now that I think I'd like to point out what I meant earlier by saying that I'd be going against close to 100 players instead of just 100 players. I mean, it's 100 duels, right? Well, I actually ended up rematching against most of the players of the first 50, and even then I'd sometimes just queue into the same person. But with the other duel types, I did my best not to, unless it was something like Lucky Blocks or Sky Wars where the person dies without any real fight, because even though in Cake Wars you just move on, you can't exactly practice fighting with the threat of going off the edge if you don't fight at all. So the parkour duels would be next, and they would be there to get me used to the parkour you'd end up having to do in Cake Wars. Whether it be a weird bridge or how the maps are built, I just wanted to avoid falling in random holes or just missing a jump overall, and the reason why I chose to do it as a duel specifically was because often in Cake Wars, you're racing someone across the map, or to their base, or to the middle point. However, there was just a slight problem with the parkour duels. Yeah, we can't do much about that, can we? So I got faced with two choices. I either skip parkour and find a different duel and wait until it's off of maintenance, or just mess around with the parkour that QCraft has scattered around the different hubs. I decided to start with that second one and go from there, so I just gave it a couple days. And after a couple days, parkour was still down, so the alternative maybe of doing the parkour scattered around the map was suddenly what I was doing. So I had to survey around the parkours that I hadn't been able to finish before our game started, and I ended up with 3 of them: Sky Wars, Egg Wars, and Survival games. I was gonna do Block Wars Bridge too, but since it's all really cool and I just wanted to show it off, but for some reason, a piece of blue carpet was ruining everything, so I skipped it. The Sky Wars parkour, it brought a few oddities to it. Firstly, I ran into Sasuke from Naruto having a casual conversation with what looked like a Russian war veteran, which I haven't watched Naruto, but that just sounds uncouth though. And the next thing was the jump scare that was 1 block long platforms with ladders, which wasn't that fun. And the last thing was just how long the parkour was, mixed in with the reward at the end. Parkour was close to 3 minutes long. 3 minutes of just stressful hopping, and not stressed because I thought I'd fall, stressed because I was scared of stepping on a block in the middle of the terrain that the devs forgot to whitelist and being sent back for my crime of doing the parkour. Now, the Block Wars parkour is about this long too, and its reward is letting you run around freely under half of the map. So the reward for this one, since it goes this high, has to be an elytra, right? Nope, empty flower pot. Yeah, I'm with that parkour. I still have 2 more. The Egg Wars parkour was probably the most visually satisfying one, since it included a bunch of skulk in it, which, I mean, come on, it's the coolest block ever. But anyways, a lot of the parkour happens to just actually be a little parkour, since this one didn't even take me a minute. I mean, come on, I wanted this portion to linger, not take 10 seconds! Okay, well, I guess they heard me, because I found 2 other parkours that were a lot harder, so I guess it made up for it. One was in the actual sewers, and the other was on a bunch of pillars. Way more fun, but less good looking. The survival games parkour did a really good job of filling me with the dread of accidentally stepping on the block the devs forgot to whitelist, and it gave me a huge sense of deja vu though, which makes me think I either did it and forgot, or this parkour was somewhere else and they moved it. But either way, this parkour was decently long, so I guess I don't have any complaints on it. But now, we can move on to something a little more interesting. Just kidding, there's more parkour, and well, see, now I took just a little too long to make this video, and the parkour duels got fixed, so we're doing them anyway. The duels, however, they were very one-sided, and one of the maps got hit with the Halloween beam because it just felt like a new level of graphics. But anyways, now, onto the interesting part. Finally, a Wars game. We're back on my natural habitat. Wait, what? I played 5 games and OBS only recorded 1. Those were good games too? Well, I guess I'm killing 9 more instead of 5. But just a quick word about those 5 games though. The first one I played like I was new. I took time to get things, so that eventually I murdered. Second game, I tried to rush up, but then the other guy was gearing up too much and I wasn't about dying like that. And then the third, fourth, and fifth games were all rushed and ended up taking less than 3 minutes. A couple days later, and I'd roll back into Egg Wars time, ready to get revenge on my recording software for daring to force me to do more than I had to for my video. I hit record. You didn't.
OBS, why do you record these videos?
I did. Nah, I'm killing everybody, which I did. I committed so much murder, it was great. Ran into a few people with brains, which was a little annoying, but I think the training I did just really paid off great. And I also, at some point, met a goober who had every right to ruin my life, drop his sword in the final fight, and there wasn't much he could do after that. So, I did it. I made it through over 100 duels. Some super anticlimactic, and some with better action than the stories we'd make back with our toys when we were little. Now, before any of my friends comment on the video and say, back when we were little, you still are, I'll expose myself. Yes, I'm 5'4". Don't laugh. Anyways, I killed so many people, and maybe I'll keep going in less edited Skywars videos that'll be more daily and full of me trying to actually have conversations and even tell stories while I try and kill people. But yeah, God bless you all, and make sure that you like the video if you like my antics today, and subscribe if you think you'll stay long term. There's plenty of Cake Wars videos on my channel if you need to reminisce. Adios, arrivederci, au revoir. Wait, a lot of byes in other languages start with A, but in English it just starts with